Hello and welcome to another edition of Business Africa. I am Afolake Oyinloye. Coming up is Kenya and Ethiopia on the verge of overtaking Nigeria and South Africa as Africa's economic giants. Mushroom production in the Republic of Congo, plans are on the way for exportation. And protests increasing against the use of the CFA franc. Nigeria and South Africa may be out of recession. However, Kenya and Ethiopia might soon outshine these economic giants in the competition for investment, according to the newly released Africa Risk Reward Index. The reward, compiled by Oxford Economics, an advisory group affiliated with the Oxford University UK, says rising security and political risk in Egypt, economic downturn in militancy in Nigeria, and the escalating political risk in South Africa have led to doubt whether opportunities in this market are still favorable for businesses. William Bahia and Elvis Bo with more.
Nigeria, South Africa and Egypt, three most stable economies in Africa, could soon lose their place to Ethiopia and Kenya. According to a report published by control risk firm which focuses on the link between risk and opportunities of economies across Africa, Addis Ababa scores 8 out of 10, followed by Nairobi with 6.7. The authors of the report emphasize that the growth of the two East African countries will enable them to meet up with African economies at the forefront. Against a backdrop of a general downturn in growth, Ethiopia's growth rate stands at 6.5%, a similar situation for Kenya, which witnessed a 6% growth between 2015 and 2016. Control Risk, however, said the top three performing economies in Africa have a sufficient lead, citing Nigeria, which continues to survive as the dynamism of its oil sector has not been hampered by falling prices.
Paul Gabriel, Senior Analyst for Africa of Control Risk Limited, joins us from UK to speak on the issue. Now, what is the peculiarity of this new index?
The new Africa Risk and Reward Index is different to other indices that you might find in that it combines both the risk and the reward side. So you'll find various indices already that focus specifically on the risks. So you'll find indices ranking African economies and countries according to how risky they are to foreign investors. And likewise, you will find various indices that just look at economic size, economic growth in the coming years, but completely disregard the risk on the other hand. And what this index is trying to do is to combine both of these sides, because as investors understand, if you want to find reward, you often need to take certain risks. But investors don't want to take risks in countries where the potential for those rewards, the potential for opportunities is not the same as the risk level would mandate. And this is where this index is helpful, because it gives an indication of which countries present the best balance between the risks and the rewards.
The index highlights the performance of Ethiopia and Kenya. Did you take into account the current electoral crisis in Kenya and the socio-political problems in some part of Ethiopia?
Yes, we did. So because the index is looking at both the risk and the reward side, you will see that Ethiopia and Kenya actually have considerable risk that they carry with them. Ethiopia in particular. So in Ethiopia, we definitely also look at the political instability that has shown over the last years. But at the same time, this is offset by the tremendous opportunity, especially in Ethiopia. In Kenya, the current political situation around the rerun of the elections, we see that very much as a short-term issue, not something that is going to impact the longer-term business environment in Kenya. So we don't see it as negatively impacting the potential opportunities that companies will face in Kenya. But at the same time, we are not underestimating some of the risks that companies that come into Kenya will have to deal with, some of the long-standing issues that companies in Kenya have to face.
Now, why is Angola not among the top 5 rated in this index, given that the country is one of Africa's thriving economies?
So the index, this is just a first version of the index. So we will feature different countries going forward. And for the first version, we selected the 3 main economies. So that's Egypt, Nigeria, and South Africa on the continent, the 3 largest economies. And then we selected two economies, Kenya and Ethiopia, that are upcoming economies, and then Zimbabwe is one of the clear outliers. So Angola wasn't featured specifically because it was neither one of the main economies on the continent, nor one of the economies where we see tremendous potential, such as those in East Africa. But nonetheless, Angola is a very, very interesting case as well, because similar to Nigeria, it's a big economy, but where the economy is somewhat depressed, or the economic environment is depressed by the low oil prices, which has implications also on the political side, but mostly for foreign investors, which are primarily dominating in the oil industry. So going forward, if we see changes in the oil price globally, then that will positively impact on the economy in Angola. But for the moment, it's not one of the main economies that we've looked at, or not one of the economies where we see particular opportunities in the coming years.
Well, thanks for sharing.
No, thank you.
When we come back, anti-CFA franc activists say the currency has overstayed its welcome, with protests in some major cities. Stay with us.